Hiya, Wanju. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Calm and Confident Parenting webinar series. This one is on supporting sibling bonds. I'm Belinda from Miralinga Parenting Service. We offer parenting services in the Southwest Metro region of Perth, and we also have centres all around Perth supporting children and families and have been doing that for over 100 years. So the first thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay my respects to elders past and present, recognising their continuing connection to land, waters and community. And I do all of this in the spirit of reconciliation. Today's workshop is based around hand-in-hand parenting, which you can learn more about at their website, handinhandparenting.org. And I'd really like to start by saying thank you so much for everything it took for you to be here today. It's a tricky business as a parent carving out this time, so thank you for the mountains you possibly had to move to be here in person or to listen in afterwards. I'd also like to go further than that and acknowledge everything you do as a parent. It's so rarely seen and understood and acknowledged, and it's such vital, complex, nuanced, challenging, absolutely delightful work. And it's just not seen enough. So thank you so much for everything you do for your family. I know you give your whole heart to it, and that's why you're here. So thank you. This brief webinar is just going to sprinkle in some ideas for you and give you some starting points really to think about, and some strategies and things you can experiment with. Hand-in-hand parenting really holds the view that you're the expert in your family. So these are offerings and invitations, and you get to make use of them as works for your family. So there's going to be 5 key messages. Number 1 is just looking at why siblings sometimes have struggles. And that's really helpful for us as parents so that we're not just frustrated thinking, why is this happening? But we've actually got a little bit of an understanding around the fact that this is not the fault of our children, and it's not our fault either. The second key message is some tips for introducing a new baby to a sibling. Then I guess the key part of the talk is 5 simple bond building tips that you can really use for any age, and they will hopefully support your your children to have that beautiful bond between them. And the 4th point is what happens when things don't go well. How do we navigate challenges? How do we build resilience? Finally, the 5th point is around support for parents. We cannot do this work in isolation. We were never meant to do this work in isolation. It's so important that we build in self-care strategies for ourselves. It's so important that we find support wherever we can, really. So to the first point, sibling dynamics. Children's brains are developing. They are not fully developed until they're in their mid to late 20s. So old. We kind of expect our 5, 6, 7-year-olds to have access to parts of the brain that simply are not available to them often. And I often say to parents, think about how old your child is in months. That really helps to put things in perspective, that even if you've got a 10-year-old, they're 120 months old. That's not very old. They're not very far along in their development. So they're doing their best. And at the end of the day, they're immature humans, not yet fully developed, and they're having to share resources. They're having to share us. That's really tough. Personality and temperament clashes can also be something that influences dynamics. So you might just have what Maggie Dent calls a rooster and a lamb. So someone who's really outgoing and loud and extroverted and takes up lots of space, and someone who likes quiet and wants to sit quietly. And that's always going to be difficult in the same house. Age clashes can also be difficult if you've got really close together. Sometimes that works well, but sometimes they both have very similar needs, and that can put pressure on you and on them. Sometimes they're quite different ages, and that can put pressure. Anyone who's parenting a teenager and a baby, I just take my hat off to you, because such different needs. And finally, I think probably the biggest thing that influences sibling dynamics is this last one, daily hurts and stored hurts. All of us carry within our nervous systems and our memories everything that happens to us and all the little challenges that we face every day. So for our children, today they might have gotten a fright when the door slammed. They might have missed us while they're at daycare. They might have had a friend snatch something off them at daycare. They might have felt sad for some reason. So they've got these little daily hurts that are accumulating. And they've also got stored hurts. So yesterday's daily hurts and the day before's and the day before's are still with them. And bigger challenges, traumas and hurts are also stored with them. So when they're feeling that tension is often when they'll go off track. And certainly siblings can be an easy place to put those hard feelings. So how do we start off on a good note? How do we introduce a new baby with the best possible chance of supporting our children to have a positive relationship? The first point, and something that we can to a degree be in charge of, is that there are not too many other changes. So, for example, not starting potty training right as the baby arrives. There are times, of course, when we can't influence the changes. There's nothing we can do about big difficulties in our lives, relationship breakdowns, deaths, maybe moving house, those huge things. It's just important for us to know that those are going to be impacting both us and our children, and give ourselves a little bit of leeway and a lot of compassion through the big feelings that are likely to come with changes like that. But wherever possible, not too many changes. The second one is connection time one-to-one with parents for the older sibling. This is the single best way I know of to help children have a good relationship, is one-on-one time with each of them. And also, in contrast to that, times of family togetherness where we all come together. We're a family. We belong together. So having a family picnic or going on a family walk, things that we can do together. My boys and I used to enjoy family read aloud nights. So just things that you can do all together, snuggled up on the couch or off out adventuring, to build that cohesive sense of yourselves as a family. Encouraging the connection between them. So you'll see there's this kind of triangle of connection one-to-one with you, connection with all of you as a family, and connection between them. And those three things are going to really build their ability to have a good relationship. So their connection together, you might need to support that quite a lot in the early days and while they're toddlers, but over time finding ways for them to enjoy one another. So, for example, we had a siblings day in our family. So once a year they would choose a cake together and really have fun coming up with an outing that we could do. So that was their brother's day together. Finally, something that's hard for us as parents is to accept their difficult feelings, their hard feelings. Around having a new baby, they might say things that we find hard to hear. You know, I wish that baby didn't arrive. One parenting person I really like, Laura Markham, tells the story of her child at about the 6-week mark, I think, who was probably 4 or 5. And she said, you know, how's it going with the baby? And this older child said, well, I guess it's okay. I guess it's okay. But could we send it? Could we send it back? They might not be full of rainbows and light about their sibling. And it's really important that they can share what's in their hearts, even if it's the hard feelings. So now on for bond building tips to help older children, but this can also apply when a new baby arrives for your older child. So specifically, this is probably the big takeaway I hope you take with you, is special time. It's such a simple tool, but it really has profound impacts. It's one-to-one, scheduled, timed, child-led, non-directive, so we're not telling them what to do, delighted playtime with a parent and a child, or a grown-up and a child. It really helps each sibling feel admired, valued, and loved by their parent, and eradicates the need to grab at attention later on. It's profoundly useful. And I know for our family that when we started doing special time every single day, and we did it every day for such a long time, we'd had some really big sibling rivalry issues, and within a couple of weeks of doing it every morning for 15 minutes each and then swapping over, so they got 30 minutes of one-on-one playtime between their mum and their dad, the sibling rivalry just dissolved. It was quite amazing. So I really recommend you experiment with timing this with a timer. That's a great way for them to know they've got your attention and you're not going to be distracted by the phone ringing or by the washing, but just being with them 100% and bringing your warm delight is very powerful. The second bond building tip is to use affection games. So humour and affection can diffuse tension. They're like first aid to kids, particularly when they're acting out. So if there's a little bit of squabbling going on, you might like to move in close and say, the next child who squabbles is going to get 1,000 kisses. Or you might say, who needs a hug? Hugs on sale. Here's a big hug, and start to chase them, and they try to run away from you and you can't catch them. And another game that works well with older children is mine. So they're squabbling over a toy and you move in and say, no, it's mine, you can't have it, and they chase you. So turning the attention to you and getting them to get out some of that nervous system tension through movement, roughhousing, running is a great way for them to dissolve tension. And 9 times out of 10, I'd say 99 times out of 100, when I've done this, it has worked beautifully to reconnect them. Part of that can be roughhousing, and roughhousing is such a beautiful way to help everyone let off steam. Things like pillow fights, sock fights, so getting the old socks and bundling them up and throwing them at one another from one side of the room to the other is really fun. We call this play listening in hand-in-hand parenting. It's where you, as the grown-up, take the less powerful role and you follow the giggles. Play listening really helps children build cooperative relationships, and it can be such a fun way for you to connect with more than one child. Another game I put here is Volcano. Ideal if you're really tired. Lie down on the couch, get them to work together to cover you up with cushions, and the volcano lies dormant for as long as you can stretch it out, and then explodes and you chase them. And they get to escape. So I'd say always pitting children against the grown-ups, never pitting children against each other, helps for them to be a team and really builds lots of cooperation and fun between them. Number 4 is whole days out. A whole day or uninterrupted hours with one child really helps them relax in a way that they often can't around siblings. You get to enjoy them at their purest and with their defences down, and just it's such a beautiful way to build your connection, but also to build their robustness with allowing their sibling to then have a bit of your attention at other times. Listening more than talking on these days out really helps if you want them to open up to you. And again, that harks back to that earlier point of allowing the hard feelings, if they've got them, to just listen. And number 5, family times. So times every day where they can talk about what went well, what was hard, what they're looking forward to, what they appreciate about one another. You might have regular family meetings, or you might do this at the dinner table. This can help build closeness and keep the communication going. And one thing that's been quite helpful for me is actually asking them at these calm moments, gosh, I noticed everyone's really struggling to play well with the Matchbox cars. How could we figure this out? Have you got any ideas for how we can share well, what we can do to make it work well as a family? And they often have some surprising insights. So that's our 5 key bond building tips. But sometimes, no matter how hard we try, things are rocky, things are challenging. And at that point, we have a lot of power to help them navigate those difficult moments, and we have a lot of power to build their resilience. So frustration is just one of the truths of being a sibling. It isn't always easy, and there isn't always a perfect solution. But having a caring adult who can listen and who hears you can ease the burden. If you arrive after a sticky moment, even if there's been, physicality, a bit of fisticuffs in there, really try hard to not be the referee. Really try hard instead to be the coach. So rather than, right, who did what and you're in trouble and you do this, moving in and saying, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I wasn't here. I can see you're having a hard time. And just getting between them physically and saying, I'm here now. I want to help both of you. So really having that lack of blame, no shame, no judgment, just I want to help. These hard moments happen between siblings. And even if you think you know who the aggressor is or who the victim is, sometimes there's a lot more to the story. So it's a much safer bet and long-term has much better outcomes to coach rather than referee. You can build their ability to be in a hard moment and to listen to one another by stay listening to each in turn. So stay listening is what we call when we stay and listen to their hard feelings. So both on your lap, you've gotten there a little bit too late, there's been a hard moment, and one would just be going off saying, it's not fair, she took the toy, da, 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 and you say, I'm right here and listening. I really want to hear how it was. And you give them 20 or 30 seconds. And then you say, thank you, darling. I want to listen to your sister now. And you turn around and say, tell me about how it was for you. And the sibling gets to talk about how it was for them. What we find is that this releases tension and that actually after a minute or two of this, often they can work out a solution themselves. They can figure out some really elegant problem solving. But even without that problem solving, for each of them to know that you're there, you're not going to take sides, you are there to help them both, is such a beautiful way to navigate those challenges and build their resilience. But to do this, of course, that's a huge ask, huge for any of us to go into the middle of a really challenging moment. We need lots of support to be able to offer that connection in those hard moments. So the first thing I would say is building in moments, micro moments of self-care every day. So if you don't do any self-care, as many parents don't, starting with one little thing, whether that's a 5-minute walk around the block when your partner gets home at the end of the day, or a cup of tea under the stars when the children have gone to bed, just one little thing. But if you've got a handle on this self-care business, I would really encourage you to write a list of 10 and put it on the fridge and try to do those 10 things every day. Hand-in-hand parenting offers a beautiful tool to support parents. We call it listening partnerships, and it's where you meet regularly with another parent or grown-up and you swap equal time without any judgment, no trying to fix it, no interruptions, completely confidential. You just have a space where you can let out your feelings, whatever they may be. Maybe you're feeling delightedly proud and gushing with love for your kids, for your life. Fantastic. That's a beautiful place to put that. And also it's a beautiful place to put your feelings of frustration, feelings of powerlessness, just feelings of stop, I've had enough, whatever it might be. Your listening partner can just hear you without interrupting you. And when the timer goes off, they don't try to wrap it up or fix it for you or summarize or anything like that. They just say, thank you so much for sharing. And then you swap. And it's their turn to be listened to. And that's also very powerful to know that you're not the only one. And I really guarantee you, as someone who's listened to hundreds, if not thousands of parents, you are not the only one to be having hard moments. We recommend in this listening partnership time, or perhaps if you like journaling, that you reflect on how your early experiences might operate as a blueprint for how you are in this moment. So how was sibling squabbling dealt with when you were a child? How were hard moments dealt with? That might give you some insights into what's going on for you. I always like in these brief webinars to give parents lots of resources if you found the ideas interesting and helpful and you'd like more. And I really hope that you do find them interesting and helpful. They've really been such a powerfully positive source of inspiration in our family, and I wish that for all families. So handinhandparenting.org is the website. You can search for specific topics like toilet training or aggression or whatever it might be. They also have a Facebook and Instagram page for Hand in Hand Parenting. I deliver a podcast called Tales from the Toolbox with 4 other instructors from around the world, and we introduce all of the tools in the first season. The Hand in Hand Parenting podcast is also really fun with lots of ideas. And there's a book, Listen, 5 Simple Tools to Meet Your Everyday Parenting Challenges, which gives an overview of the hand in hand parenting approach. I'd also like to recommend a couple of other great books specifically around siblings. So Siblings Without Rivalry by Faber and Maslich, and Peaceful Parents, Happy Siblings by Dr. Laura Markham. They're both great books for looking at the sibling relationship and how to support it to go well. In the PowerPoint presentation, you'll also see a handout called Resources for Parents and Carers. There's a number of helplines there for crisis support. There's a kids helpline, Raising Children website, 0 to 3, our own Better Beginnings here in WA. There's lots of resources there to support you. So, to summarise, there are many reasons that sibling dynamics get rocky, and you can help. You have a lot of power to support them in those moments. The second point was around the transition to being an older sibling and some tips and strategies there. And the third point was 5 simple bond-building tips. And I recommend you revisit those, particularly special time. If things are hard, reinstate special time. It's hard to keep it going as a daily practice. I really recommend that you do if you can. But no judgment, no pressure. We are all so busy. It's really hard to keep these new ideas going. But when things are tricky, have a think. How much one-on-one time have I spent? So that's a key takeaway, I think. And the fourth one is there are tools to navigate sibling challenges and to build resilience. And one of them is that staying and listening to all their hard feelings, maybe about their sibling, without interrupting them. And without trying to fix it, just hearing the challenges that they carry. We call this like an emotional poo, and it really does clear their little systems and allow them to think well again afterwards and really connect in with their sibling in positive ways. And finally, we parents deserve so much support as we do this important work. It's absolutely vital that we get the emotional support and the practical support that we deserve so that our children can thrive. So I would love to hear from you via email if you've found this helpful, what insights you've had as a result of this, and keep the conversation going. And I'd really appreciate it if you'd fill in the poll that I will email to you, or the survey, or you can see it on the PowerPoint presentation. Miralinga offers lots of talks and workshops as part of our partnership in the Southwest Metro region. And I just want to finish by saying thank you so much for all your hard work for your family. It's such important work, and you deserve so much support as you do it. Thank you so much, everyone.